It's important for you to ask questions. We use different theory from different chapters. Said, okay, Weiman, I don't know how many times I should have to say. You use one theory. You use one theory to explain it. You cannot use too many. Say that if you want to use too many theories, if you get in-depth analysis, you will exceed the page limit. If you don't, that means that you don't know the theory, you don't know the problem. You just try to put everything together, because the theory itself takes space. If you use the 5 theories to explain it, 5 theories will be 5 pages already. Where do you write about the case? So the case needs to be analyzed in depth. That's why I say use one theory. And if you know this theory very well, you should be able to give elaboration about it. Then, Weiman, I hope that answers your question rather than put it to different theories. You know, we said at the beginning one theory or even part of a theory. Like you say, talk about equity theory, for example, or just justice theory. I can use procedural justice, or I can use interactional justice, or I can use distributed justice. Just one would be enough. You don't want to put everything over there and you spend so much time writing what the theory is. In your report, you also need to explain what the theory is to see your understanding about the theory. Actually, it's interesting to see in the presentation, many students don't even understand the theory. They present the theory wrongly. That's a problem, right? Because you don't put enough time, you don't, I mean, to be honest or be frank to each other, how much time you spend on this course? I keep saying you had to spend at least 3 hours after class, but I don't think so. You've done so much. I know, I just don't want to keep repeating this one. You will regret later on after you get a job. As I said, all these practical skills are so easy to do it. You can spend one night yourself. You can learn how to do it. But for this one, you have to spend much more time to make it part of you. So OB is part of you. It's not something over there like accounting skills, logistic, or do this, how to do the shipping, purchase, etc. It's independent of you. The skills you can learn. You can take college to do it. But for this course, you get a much higher level. It's all about you, about your brain, about your thinking. And even today, we're going to see how important many of the devices. And you did not put enough time. Even, let's say this way, even in the email, some students ask me how to improve the final exam because they didn't put enough time in the midterm. Even though I emphasize so much, be careful, then they didn't bother. They put all the time to the statistics, to the quantitative studies, to your finance, introduction to what's 811, 812, right? Too bad. You don't think that. Why you spend so much time? Because that one is easier for you to gain. And for this one, it's so hard for you to find the results. That exactly said you have to spend more time rather than less. And you just take the lightly, think, oh, it's okay. It's just like nothing, right? You'll see how hard it is. And when you regret, it's often you cannot come back anymore. So that's exactly the problem. Every time we say that every semester we have said this, and every semester we get the students who make same mistakes. So make sure you focus on one theory, focus on part of a theory to make a clear presentation. And in the group presentation, make sure everybody, everyone, every member of your group presents, not just one. So everyone has to present by dressing up and turn on the video. Turn on the video to present it to the whole class and also to engage all the students. And the next class, I will give you the guideline for presentation. The one that I will use for evaluation is exactly the same that used for your business communication course. I hope you have it, but in case you forget it, next class I give you that guideline, how I get the marks about your presentation. So be careful, such as the tones, the volume, the eye contact, the engagement, the grab attention, all these differences. No, formally addressed. We said it already. Formal dress, the formal dress code in the end for your presentation. No, so most time it's in the class. I don't have to dress like formally dressed, but you do that during the presentation. And I think I said at the beginning, if you don't have, go buy a suit. It's like a very normal. If you don't have, go buy a set. If you don't want to try, don't come to business. You will get in trouble. The dress code or the norm of dressing is so important. They see you in the way you dress. You remember that communication we just discussed last class. We got to be careful. Okay. Any other questions? No, I hope you get it. I just want to remind, actually it's just repeat. I don't want to do that, but pay attention at the beginning of the class because we discuss something important because the mistakes you often make, I point out and change it. You don't just put your name in the classroom and went away to go to washroom or drink or do whatever you like. No, you need to stay focused in the classroom when we are talking. If I asked you to turn on the video right now, I don't know how many of you actually in front of the camera right now. That's exactly the problem. It's a challenge for online learning, but you should pay attention. Otherwise, I don't know, how much I've lost in this process. Okay, so today we're going to come to the new one about the decision making. Last class we discussed all this communication, how leaders can use communication to change people, and this chapter is about how we make decisions as leaders. As a leader, we make decisions to achieve our goal. You think about getting things done through others. That's a key job for the manager, the leader. But how to get the right goal or decision making? So that's exactly how we're going to discuss today. See, normally with decision making, the definition for the process. So decision making is a process. Decision making regarding how to choose one from the other and then commit resources to it. So the commitment resources. So that's the key for you to consider. Choice making, commit resources, and a process. So the decision making, let's go a little bit more. The key about that would be how to identify the problems. Identify problems so we know where to go. The problem identification process generates two types of problems. First one is well-structured problems. The second one is ill-structured problems. So the well-structured problems talk about the current state. So status quo is clear, the vision, the future is clear, and the process to get there is clear. It's like a path, goal. Path, goal to get there. Goal is clear, path is clear, and what we are in is clear. This would be the well-structured problems. And they are simple, their solution generates little controversy, no conflict, and this kind of decision often made by computer. AI can make decision. So we have the so-called a program. A program often makes decisions regarding these well-structured problems, like the rules, routines, standard procedures, and rule of thumb. All this will be there. So they provide useful means to solve all well-structured problems. And we don't need human beings that much if we already have all this information. We know the current situation, we know the future goals, we know the path to get there. So you just input the parameters, the computer will figure out what to do. So that's a well-structured problems. But in this process, one key issue would be the garbage in, garbage out. The computer at this moment, at least at this moment, computer cannot think. So they cannot think. They can do or they can try. But they are fast enough. They can try all different paths to decide which one is better, but they cannot think. Therefore, as managers or leaders, you got to be careful when you input the garbage and you will get garbage. Just like statistics, I think you are taking the course called quantitative methods, offered by Dr. Bucky, right? So that the statistic model sounds good, sounds powerful, but if you input garbage, you will get garbage. So it's just a tool. That's why the key is still on you. You are the decision maker. You make sure you don't input garbage so that you will not get garbage. Then another type of problem, even worse, would be the ill structure problems. Ill structure problem saying that I don't know what we want to get the future. I'm not clear what we have right now, and I don't have a clue how to get there, right? So future, present, the past. Neither one is clear. That is ill structure problems. And then we need more from you, the decision makers. So it cannot be solved with the programmed decisions like this kind of problem. And you must resort to non-programmed decision-making process. As a result, you have higher risk and stimulate strong political consideration. So this will be the one that you often faced with in real life. See, let's see the process about the decision-making model. This is the most important model in decision-making process. It's called rational decision-making model because this is based on assumption everybody is rational. Maybe you see that you are not rational, but anything based on the idea that everybody is rational, we start with identify the problems, then we search for information. After that, we develop different alternatives. Then we evaluate which one is better to find the priority, and we pick the solution. Then we implement, and lastly, we try to evaluate. 7 steps, step by step. If we ask in the final exam, what is the steps for decision making? This is the one that you're going to see. From the beginning, talk about identify the problem, search for information, doing things until you evaluate. This process is rational. And this comes to the question about the two set of different way of decision making. Rationality, we call that perfect or bounded. So perfect rationality is really about we based on assumption that every individual is rational. While bounded rationality is saying that based on reality, we're not rational. So perfect rationality talk about the economic man. If you heard this one, where did we find this one, if you remember? In scientific management movement. Frederick Taylor mentioned this economic man concept. It's from economics. This assumption saying that this kind of economic person is perfect, is cool, is calculating, they have no feeling. Therefore, they are perfectly logical and they orient towards economic gain. They only care about how much the utility. If you are familiar with economics, utility, what's the highest number of utilities? So that's a perfect rationality. But unfortunately, this one has a lot of unreasonable assumption. From economic man concept, talk about they can get the information for free, no cost. They can get complete information. They are perfectly logical, and they only have one criterion for decision making: get the most money. That's economic gain. But you can see that these characteristics do not exist in real life. Real life, instead, we have this bounded rationality. Herbert Simon, that's the guy who proposed this theory, won the Nobel Prize in economics for this idea about the bounded rationality, saying that we don't have perfect rationality in real life. We have to consider how they think. It's a social person rather than economic person. The managers should use bounded rationality rather than perfect rationality to make a decision. So this strategy relies on limited information, on time constraint with political consideration. You don't have all the information, just impossible because you have cost. And you have time constraint, you have to make decision right away, like during the exam time. You don't have unlimited time. And then you have political consideration, saying that if you have to hire somebody as a decision maker, you say, oh, he's just a crop. We don't have any, he doesn't meet any criteria. Then suddenly you know that, oh, he's a nephew of your boss. What would you do? The political consideration get into trouble, right? That's the boundary rationality. That's why you've got to be careful to think about in this process, our decision making is greatly affected by this cognitive biases and by how we frame the problems. So let's begin think about the framing. We'll come back to this later on, but the framing, that is process how you present the information. That's framing. think about yourself, right? Kelechi, Weimen, I'm not quite sure whether you post pictures, photos of yourself in the WeChat group or in the Instagram, Facebook. And many times when we post our photos, we frame it or we PS it, right? We Photoshop it so that we can frame our photo in a pleasant way so that people don't even recognize us anymore. So the picture doesn't look like you anymore. I'm kidding, but that's exactly how we frame. We try to frame this information so that it appears differently. Of course, for our photos, we try to frame them to be better, but for other time, we try to frame in different ways. And this framing, or we call how problems, decisions, alternative are framed, can have very powerful impact on resulting decisions. What you see online could be so far away from the truth. Let's say this way. So after the PS, you don't even know what is reality anymore. Now they can even PS the videos. They can Photoshop the videos so that with the help of AI, artificial intelligence, they can PS the videos. You say, oh, this is like a video should be the same. No, the videos are also different. Well, we create technology and technology creates Earth. We are not real anymore. You cannot face a real you anymore in the real life. That's why many of you do not show me your video, right? You only show your picture, but I'm kidding. But the picture would be nice framed, but the reality would be quite different. Not like me, I'm always the real one in now to show you, but the pictures are so different. That's why framing has a very powerful impact on the decision, on the results. You got to be careful. We will discuss more in the different steps. So another one will be the cognitive biases. It's all come from the perceptual biases. If you remember in chapter 3, we have all kinds of perceptual biases in different senses that make us see wrong rather than correct reality. The cognitive biases make us interpret the reality and call it a reality, and it cannot be further from the truth. That's cognitive biases. Let's see some example. First step of the rational decision model is identify the problem. And in this identify the problem, before you get to the framing, before you get to the framing is how you present it. Let's see some of the problem even when you try to perceive. So the bounded rationality give us quite a different pictures. In the perfect rationality, we just get a great problem. Oh, that's so clear, so true. Nothing, but no, reality is different. First one about perceptual defense. Perceptual defense is saying that we don't want to see the threat. So we don't see anything that is threatening or unpleasant. Remember this one? In the perceptual biases, we don't see anything that is threatening or unpleasant. Think about it now. Donald Trump on whenever he tweets, he said that I'm winning, I won. He didn't see this one. He didn't see he's a loser. So this is kind of a perceptual defense because loss is something unpleasant. It doesn't want to see. So this is a perceptual defense. I don't want to see it. We hear what we want to hear. We see what we want to see. That causes trouble. How could you make real decision, high quality decision? The second one, the problem defined in terms of a functional specialty. Well, we have a very interesting saying. To a hammer, you know this term? To a hammer, everything looks like a nail. That true, Mazia? Logi, yeah, right. So because you have that function of a hammer, everything is a nail. You can nail down, right? Hammer down. Similarly, in the organizational context, for every accountant like you guys, everything looks like accounting problems. For every supply chain specialist, Mazia, right? Everything looks like supply chain problems. How do you identify the true problem if you're following this trap? Yeah, I identify the problem in terms of my functionality or expertise. That's why to a hammer, everything looks like a nail. It's too bad. That's wrong. And then people try to define the problem in terms of solution. What is the in terms of solution? You think about this one. You ever heard this Google glasses for a while, right? It was trending for a while, then disappeared. Where did it go? It failed. The Google glasses failed. It was training right a few years back. So good. Why we got this trouble? It's because their problem identification is trying to say, yes, I have a smartphone solution and I have a glasses. Let's put it over there. So the smartphone solution on my glasses sounds good. But how do you know that the users will want it? So the problem is not identified by in terms of the user's needs or consumer needs. They use a solution because they already have a solution for smartphone for the glasses. So they put together, try to convince people you should use it. Wow, it's so good, like Mission Impossible. Well, the Tom Cruise, right? Just knock the glasses. I see, oh yeah, the guy over there. I can search the information. I know where I can find the Forbidden City. Come on, it's in the movie, and consumers do not need it. At least, the Google Glasses failed. So you don't identify the problem in terms of solutions. You have to do the needs analysis. Understand what they need. The last one is the problem diagnosed in terms of symptom. So this will be the one that you only see that like, oh, people, the employees are not happy. They have a low morale. Well, looks like so they're demotivated. Then you say, oh, that's because they have no motivation. So that's like it's correct, but nonsense. It's useless. So this kind of problem identification is useless. You have to think about what causes kind of unhappiness or dissatisfaction. Could it be the salary, compensation? Could it be because of the environment? Could it be the job? Could it be task? Could it be the candidate's, the employee's own personality? So you don't identify problem, use just a symptom. You have to go deep. That's why we talk about your project. You have to go deep using one theory to understand what's going on. Rather than try to define as a symptom, you try to grab all kinds of theories to explain. No need. You use one theory to explain everything. So this will be the problem identification, the cognitive biases. People have these troubles. The using example say the $1,000 expenditure can be framed as a cost and investment. We said that before, like in the HR management movement, when we discuss HR development, our employees, right? If you still remember, anybody? This is how you frame it. Our employees are investment, not costs. The way you frame will decide what decision you should do. They could lead a very different decision, depends on how you frame it. That's the framing and the problem identification. We'll come back later on for the framing because the way you frame it will change your attitudes towards your different course of actions. And in the real process, I hope you should be very careful to try a different frame and see that maybe a different course of action will deserve it. So the second step for rational decision making is about information search. Once the problem is identified, we have such information to find the problems. But decision makers often have too little or too much information. So too little information is understandable because people are lazy. We don't want to acquire the information to make a decision, to make a good decision. Like when we talking about the project exam, project topic, you don't do that early enough. So at the last minute, send me the company's name and the problems, and later on, some student have to say, "Oh, I want to change it because I didn't get enough information at the beginning." Because you are lazy, you didn't get enough information to make good decision, and then later on you have to change from Ford China to Ford International. Kind of the company changed. They use whatever information is easily available. So they know, oh yeah, I heard this name, or my house is so close to the plant of the Ford company, so I use it. It's readily available. You didn't take time to get more information. And the third one would be, when we make decision, we often use information, or we only accept information that support our previous, solutions. Only support means that consistent with our previous perception. That's part of perceptual defense. So the confirmation biases. This is too little, of course, and in addition to that, we also have this phenomenon that often happens in project teams. So you can see that in the project teams, we have a not invented here bias, meaning when you try to think about information, then the other project team say, "Oh, you should do this. This would be really good." But for you, why that's not our, that's not our group's solution. Why should I take yours? It's not invented here. Kind of this biases prevent you from taking more, diverse ideas to make high quality decisions. So these biases could be very high, costly. That's a big trouble because you don't spend enough time or efforts to find the right information. But on the other hand, we also have too much information. Too much information can also damage our quality decisions. First one, for information overload. Many of you will get this, these days, you get too much information, not just from classes, from emails, from your social medias, they're too much. And your attention is seriously distracted, just fragmented. You cannot focus on anything anymore. Think about yourself. Do you have the problem? Do you have a difficult time when you try to focus on anything? That's exactly because you have paid attention on too much things, on the different things, on social media, the movies, audios, music, and all this nonsense instant message. Useless, but it takes away your attention so that you cannot concentrate on anything anymore. That's a big trouble. And of course, that will lead to errors, leads to omission, leads to cutting cornerstones. So this will be the one that you get into trouble when you have too much information. And research already found that information, if you get too much, you kind of become stupid. Your intelligence level goes down because you cannot do very much with that. So there's too much information can make you think, well, I'm better because I'm more. Basically, the assumption is more is better because even if it didn't improve, you still get the confidence level. And in addition to that, you can see that managers often do this one. That's why they cause too much trouble or too much information trouble. So they get too much information to little decision relevance. You make decision based on lots of information, even though many of the source of information are just irrelevant. They use information that are collected and gathered after a decision to justify the decision. You already have a decision, but they want to get more information to justify why my decision was right. That's a perceptual defense part of it. Then request information that they do not use. Then you get lots of money, right? Because many times you have to buy the information. They request, but they do not use it. And request more information regardless of what is already available. They don't care even how much they have. They keep asking more information. And our manager also complain that there is not enough information to make a decision, even though they ignore available information. So the other words, I think you heard from the movie that you want the truth. Can you handle the truth? You want information? Can you handle so much information? No. Our cognitive process is very limited. We cannot handle this information, but we still ask for too much information. So that would be the one. And in the organizational context, the star employees often are overloaded because of their many social connections. So be careful. And in addition, one piece of information that you got to be careful in this chapter is we pay much more attention to what we paid for rather than the free advice. The same advice, if it's free, you don't even bother to listen. If you have to pay for it, you get more attention. It's similar like in our class. When I discussed that negotiation exercise, some students just give up in the process of negotiate. They don't care. Well, it's free. Nothing. They don't care. But if after they get a job, they have to negotiate the job offer, they may say, oh, I have to get a training, come back to me, pay $500 per hour, then you take more care about that, even though that's the same quality advice. I give you same quality advice in the class. And because it's free, you don't pay attention. You don't value that much. And then in your, after you have trouble, you have to pay for it. You pay more attention. I hope we can get over these biases. I don't know how to, but make sure you'll be aware. Like right now in the class. Yeah. And whenever it's free, they don't appreciate. That's exactly the point. So they don't care. And in the class, now even in our class, you paid tuition fee, but you are not paying me directly. So you don't feel that. Then that's why you don't take care, you don't pay attention to my class. It's free, it's just mandatory, I have to take it. Why bother, right? Truly wrong. You got to be careful. I give you all this free advice, very valuable for your life. I hope you pay attention. You don't appreciate, you will regret. And when we say regret, it's often you cannot recover anymore. So all the failures, all the losers are based on a lot of regrets. Okay. Oh, I use loser just say that you raise your attention. All the losers are based on that a lot of regrets. And the successfuls, they don't regret because they pay attention already. And when you think about, yeah, I didn't do this, I didn't do that, you regret, well, that regrets pave the path to your death. So easy. If you don't pay attention to the valuable advice, the free, you will have to pay a huge, huge kind of things, whatever you call that, like lessons, the monies, or other things to do it. So be careful. This is a lesson for your life, not for your final exam. Then we do this alternative development, evaluation, and choice. So in this process, we understand the perfect rationality and the boundary rationality, the two different ones. Perfect rationality, the key purpose would be maximization. The economic man concept, saying that I don't care others, I'm purely logical, rational, cool, calculating, so that I try to maximize the benefits. That's the whole purpose. While the boundary rationality is quite different. Boundary rationality is often about good enough, satisfying, let's say. Good enough is good enough. When we try to make a decision, the good enough is a good decision rather than maximize because you don't know whether you have sufficient information to make it good enough. So it's different alternative development. And once again, this cognitive biases is everywhere. Cognitive biases come from your perceptual errors. That's why it's just everywhere. And you see that people, human beings, are especially weak. Intuitive means from your gut, gut feeling. You make statistical decision based on your gut feeling. How could you do that? Just wrong, right? And if you frequently violate standard statistical principles. Let's see some of the examples. First one about the base rates. When you consider your decision, you ignore or fail incorporating the basic rates, or the base rates talk about odds. What is your chance of success? The odds of success. You don't know. That's why people buy the lottery. That's people go to casino here, Windsor Casino, the Caesar Casino, one of the largest because it's a chain store, the chain with the Las Vegas, that Caesar Casino. So what is the odds of winning a lottery? The number over there are very good, right? For this weekend, actually today, yeah, for the maximum in Windsor, that's like $29 million. The odds of winning would be hundreds of millions, 1 out of 100 millions. So you ignore this kind of basic rates and try to play it. No, you will not get there. But human being doing that. And large samples often warrant more confidence than small samples. Some people say, oh, when I make decision, I try to evaluate which decision is better. They use employment survey. Looks like it's good. But if your survey is not scientifically designed, it's not good anymore. So this large sample doesn't mean that the quality will be better. They may be worse than the focused group. Think about yourself. If you try to do a survey to do this project, A focus group may give you more valuable, high-quality information and decision. And decision makers often overestimate the odds of success. That's the one that is just normal. We are overconfident, do things. I think people are really poor at revising estimated probability values they acquired additional information. So we don't, as human beings, we have all these troubles. We don't adjust enough. So that's very important when it's anchoring effect. Anchoring effect saying that people are affected by something irrelevant over there. We do not adjust our estimate enough from some initial estimates. That is anchoring effect. I'm not quite sure whether you have this one. Like last time when we discussed negotiation, the used car, we supposed to say you should make your first offer first, rather than waiting for the other one to give you first offer. Why? Because this anchoring effect. Let's give you an example. Some of you may already in Canada, but most of you will be coming to Windsor, to Canada. When you come here, of course, it's normal, encouraged, no problem. You'll go visit Toronto, visit Montreal, visit Ottawa, maybe Vancouver, etc., or Banff National Park, right? Or Point Pelee National Park, etc. Just normal, no problem. But if you say you go to Montreal, very nice one, we call the Little Paris in North America. Yeah, so everything's good. Until you go to the flea market to try to buy some souvenirs for your friend. To the flea market, try to buy some souvenirs. Over there, you see that a flag with a Canadian flag or the maple leaf on it, and you ask the price, right? $100. So the vendor says $100. What would you do if you try to counter offer? Anybody? Mazia first, maybe? If you try to buy this souvenir from a flea market, the guy or the vendor saying that it's about $100, what would you do? Women, maybe? Girls would be better at this? You will not buy. No. Yeah, of course, you can choose and not buy, that's fine. But if you want to buy the souvenirs, that's like a shining plaque or maybe the golden necklace, etc. But anyway, so that's the guy asked, say $100. What do you do, women? Oh, another place also give you $1,000, right? Souvenirs, the tourist place always that way. You want to go to another place, you'll find that 150 over there. Zhijie offered to pay 50. Nioma, very good. Knows how to do this well. Lowball the offer, Daniel, you learned that, sure. But how lowball is bargaining? Of course, Sadia is bargaining. This process is bargaining. I want to see how you bargain. Nioma already got $50, right? Daniel, how much would you offer? Or maybe Sadia, you want to offer something? Because you want to buy something, if you decide to not buy, that's a different story. You can go to another place, but they may ask even more, 150. But anyway, go to say 52. Okay, Daniel get 50. Anybody else? Yeah. So 50 is reasonable. It already cuts half the price. The girls will know how to do it. Daniel, you learned the negotiation, so you should be expert. But pretend to leave. That's another way of pretending to leave so that you may get a lower price. Give him your price. Women in China, some place you must you of course you have to bargain. You want to buy 30, you say you want to get a 30, but you have to counter offer something, right? 50 yuan, $50. So Chunhua is good. You pretend to leave. That's one strategy. We need to do. We talk about something. Pretend to leave. What do we accept? But how about this one? Say $10. You ask the souvenir, same thing, and then say he says $10. The vendor says $10. Daniel, how much would you offer, right? Or maybe Chunhua, you want to do something, pretending to leave? Well, you can see that giving him your price is good, but useless. I don't know what price you give. That's exactly the problem in the project. You make sure that you be specific enough, not just give a correct advice, but useless. So if the other guy asks for $10, how much would you offer? Yang Qingyang, yeah, $5. 5, then you get 5. Women. See, it depends. That's when you get when you get in trouble, big trouble about this one. So whenever you have to make a decision, you always say it depends. You have to make a decision now. Yeah, Ying Ying, good, get 5. You have to make a decision now. It's exactly this way. We say too little information, too much information. Looks like, oh yeah, I need more information. No, you have to make a decision now. You can never have all the information required, particularly for business managers. It's just impossible. Time is money. You have to make a decision. When we ask, you try to avoid actually when you say, oh, it depends. I know I have to see this, I have to see that. You try to not make a decision. That's the trouble. Right? Now you get a 5. Nobody says 3, 2, or even 1. Oh, yeah, 2. Neoma, very good. You got a 2. I already said it. Yeah. But you can see when the other guy asking for 100, you say 50 or even 30, right? Mazia, right? Even 30. When the other guy said 10, you say 5, 2. You see that you are anchored already. You bargain around the offer. They say 100. If the other guy say $100, would you say $2? No, Monsieur, right? So you are anchored by the other's number. The other one say $100 for this souvenir, a shirt. The shirt with Justin Trudeau's head in front of you. Yeah, a shirt like Armani. It looks like expensive, but anyway, that could be a fake one. So true why? No. We are talking about in that scenario. What would you do? They say $100. You are afraid to say $2 because you are anchored by the price over there. You should give your price directly, straightforward. I do not care how much you say. I think this one just worth $5. I buy it. Otherwise, well, you discuss. You buy a different one, maybe. Not the other guy. The two. I'm just saying that if put the scenario differently, the guy asked $10. You offered 5, 2, 3, 1. But your offering, your counter offer, is anchored by the other one. That's why you have to make your decision. You have to do that so that you will anchor the other one rather than being anchored by the other one. See, this is the anchoring effect. It's so powerful. Whatever you try to think, when the other asks $100, you wouldn't afraid to say $2. And when they ask $10, you're easy to get a $2 or even $1 because you are anchored by this number. A decision maker, you see how bad it could be if you are anchored while you're not knowing it. So the key is to offer first. Based on your knowledge, offer this one. I think I will buy it $5. I don't think the other guy will say, oh, $3 to you. No, they will get increase, right? That's the way about the bargaining. So you try to bargain, but be careful about anchoring in decision making. Like last year, when I went to Cairo, Egypt, to talk about MOM satellite campus in Cairo. We tried to launch the program over there. And we visit a flea market. The staff, they try to buy the key of life. Anybody knows what is the key of life? The symbol, the round shoe, and like the cross that often carved in the coffin, mummy, or in the pyramid. So that's the one that you try to buy some souvenirs in the flea market. They said 50 Egyptian dollars per key. That's the one, 50 Egyptian dollars, probably a few dollars anyway. So all my colleagues say, they just try to bargain, try to buy it, no problem. But I said, I don't think it was 50 Egyptian dollars. I want $50 for 2. Well, the guy also agreed, give to me. So I give the price to anchor him, and then he happily accepted the offer. 50 Egyptian dollars. I get 2 keys of life by the same price as the other one offered for 1. So you got offered yourself based on your knowledge. You offer that one, you get a good deal. Otherwise, you will be anchored. Let's say this way. So got to be careful for this decision-making process. That's just one example. Lots of cognitive biases that we have to be careful. And in this process, of course, we say either maximize the benefits or we try to say enough is enough, the good enough kind of decision. This satisficing means the decision makers accept adequate level of acceptability. I'm okay at that level. Therefore, whenever I get there, I'll be happy. I will accept it. Because there are no end for this maximization, which only exists in ideal situation. You don't have that ideal situation. So that satisfaction is another one have to consider. So in the process of alternative development, evaluation, and choice making, the search for alternative is often very limited. People are lazy, they don't want to get enough information. And the firms invest very little money in exploring alternatives. And lastly, the provision of information concerning alternative is crucial. We need to get more valuable, relevant, important information. And unfortunately, our entrepreneurs, people with this kind of entrepreneurial personality, are often overconfident, too much about optimistic, and then they often have these cognitive biases that cloud their decision-making process. Many of us, when we make decision, it clouds our brain so that the survival of new firms become the trouble. That's why 98% of new firms will fail in their first 3 years. These guys make decision with all these problems, these cognitive biases. And then we have this risky business. In the process decision making, the risky business can also a big trouble, but this comes from framing. When you view a problem as a choice between losses or between others, our decision would be different. That comes from how you frame the problem. Let me use one example over here. Okay, let me just write down. Assume that we have a plan A and a plan B. So two different plans for your decision. Plan A saying that because you are all very good participants, you're very good, in the class, I decided to give you 20% of a bonus in the final. 100% sure. That's one decision. One course of action, plan A. And then we can have a plan B. Plan B, instead of give you 20% bonus right away, I'm thinking that we'll see, we trust you, whether you have good luck. So I will toss a coin. Do I have it? One? Maybe like something. I can toss a coin to see if you have that head up. I give you 40% in the final. And if you get a tail up, let me write this head up. I give you 40% bonus. If you get a tail up, you get a 0. So which one do you prefer? Or which one would you do as a decision maker? As a decision maker, you have plan A and plan B, right? And your choice now, plan A, plan B. So with all these different things. Which one would you choose? Very good, Jingru, Yimeng. So Jiang Yong, okay, I can well, very good. So you get a 0 for this one in the final if 0 bonus. Yeah. So plan H, NATO, very good. You can see that in most cases, Luoju, then you are there to make a decision. So you have to decide which one to pick. Yeah. So this is about the risk things. It's really about, do I like the risk or not? We know that we say one bird in hand is better than two birds in the bush. We already gave the 20%. We don't want to try the 40% anymore. This risk aversion happens for something you gain. But you can see the plan BA and the plan B are equivalent, right? They're not different. They're equivalent only when the risk. The rest is the same. If you calculate the value, that's the same. Why do you want A instead of B? It's because of framing. Let's try a different one. And C, for example, I'm thinking that because only very few students talked in the chat room, so we're going 20% of a deduction. In your final, 100%. That's plan C. Oh, I have a plan D. 40% deduction. Final is head up if head up, and 0% reduction in final if tail up. Now, which one do you do? Like the first one, I'm happy with your participation, so give 20% bonus. Now, see, oh yeah, not everybody actually participated. They just put the name in the classroom. I don't even know whether they're doing anything. So I decided to reduce 20% of your final exam, the marks, by 20% with 100%. That's plan C. And then we get a plan D. We have the plan D said 40% reduction in final if you toss the coin is head up, and you get a 0 if it's a tail. 0 deduction in final. Which one would you do? Logic, right? D, C, C, D. Okay. Very good. And this two, plan C and plan D, again, they talk about the risk level, right? So asking, well, Geneto, you would like reduced 20% because you didn't participate? Or you want to try your luck? So you may have a 0% deduction in the final if you get the tail of your toss coin, right? You try to toss it, well, head or tail. So for this one, most would do the D to take the risk because the risk would give you a chance to lose nothing rather than lose for sure 20%. So this is the one that when you consider D versus A, C and D equivalent, but our attitudes are quite different. When this one is a gain and this one is a loss. So different gain, different loss, we get a different attitude about risk. When it's loss, more people come to the risk side. When it's gain, more people come to this conservative side, risk aversion. This is about framing and its effect on you, so that you can see that we can brainwash people without doing anything else, but just to frame them differently. Frame the problem differently, you'll see that differently. Right? For example, Donald Trump right now, he sees losing the election as a loss. Right? Therefore, he won't take a risk to sue in court, to fight in court, etc. If he sees as a gain to save more people's life, he may should just say, no, don't do anything anymore. Resign now, or maybe step down next year gracefully. That's the one that you can see. You perceive as a loss or perceive as a gain. The framing, people will take a different action. Think about yourself. When you make decision, try to frame the problem differently. When you think about your employees, are they your investment or they are just your costs? You will have a different view about what you would do to them. Framing is so powerful, and many times nobody would do this analysis for you in your real life, so that you just follow some direction which they set up for you already. You don't even know, you're not aware of this. So this is about the framing has very powerful impact on how we see anything, how we make decision in our real life. So make sure you know these problems. Make sure you understand. Maybe you should think about, I change the framing, I'll get it so differently. So this is about how we frame the risky business to change your view about what course action you will take. Similarly, in the negotiation, if you frame the package as a lose or something, win-lose, or as something win-win, you will have a different reaction from the other side. You should command these skills to frame the things to make it work for your side, not for the other side. So that's a risk decision. Let's take a break, and then we'll come back and talk about how we implement the solution, and then how we justify the consequences of the solutions. So take a break and come back in about 10 minutes. At the same time, I will give you a Google document this time. This time it's not just a sign up. Instead, it's a relatively long survey questionnaire with all kinds of questions to test your view about your understanding of a society. So please answer this honestly. Don't worry, we don't get into your personal stuff. We just want to see that in general, how the class, how all the students will see certain things. This questionnaire, including the Big Five personality, remember that the Big Five? So will you gain some experience to answer this question when you are looking for the job? You may know how to answer it. So try to answer this honestly to see what kind of question will be asked in your job applications. Just possible. They may not ask, they may ask. So get yourself familiar with this kind of questions. So in the end, we ask about your gender, the age, and citizenship. Want to see the cultural background and its impact on how you perceive different things. So this is a relatively long survey. You don't have to submit, and you don't have to do it now. You have to submit next class, or maybe I will give you the link for you to submit. So next class, I'll give you the link to submit this as assignment, a take-home assignment. It's just to answer these questions. There's no right or wrong answers. It's just your perception. It's your understanding. So don't think too much, and don't think about which one is right, which is wrong. No, there's no right or wrong. It's your opinion. And when you answer it, it's a Word document. So please download it from the Google Doc and underline answers. You know what is underline, right? So underline means that you just, the Word document you can underline so that you can, I know this is the answer. Do not highlight it in a different color, okay? Do not highlight it in a different color. Let's say you want to put this one. Well, I'm just demonstrate the color. So different color. No, don't do that, because once I have your submission, I cannot see the color anymore. So just do the underline. All clear with this one? Okay, very good. So you don't have to do now. You don't have to do now and submit next class. When I give you the link, you submit. All right, let's take a break. Sorry, I forgot to unmute myself. Hope everybody come back. So the decision-making process involves, you know, that the rational decision-making model. From the beginning, you identify the problem, then search for information, then create different, you know, alternatives, then do this evaluation, which one is better, then choose the one to implement it. So now let's come to this solution implementations. Once you are committed to something that we want to do, we will say, people, are you committed to it? Do you want to do it, or do you accept it, etc.? So the problem often occurred about if you don't buy this decision. If the decision is not your decision, if you did not participate in the process, decision-making process, you know, then you are more likely to say no, or you at least at the surface, you may have the trouble. I accept it. While the cross-functional team, that's the one that you often come across. They said many times, when people are from different departments and different functions, they come together to develop the product. That one have a higher, you know, chance of acceptance. So that's why this one can be used to prevent this kind of implementation problems. But in the end, when we have to evaluate solutions, so this perfect rational decision making should be able to evaluate the effectiveness based on the calm objective detachment, but which we don't see in the real life. In the real life, we are more likely to have these two problems: justification and the hindsight. Justification is really about what we believe. It's really about, you know, if something's wrong, or, you know, the decision was not as successful as we expect, what would happen? So you can see that people are overconfident about the adequacy of their decisions. We have a substantial dissonance that can be aroused when the decision turned out to be a faulty, when in that as the decision doesn't lead to the target or what you expect, not a desirable result. So to prevent such a dissonance, decision maker avoid careful tests for adequacy of these decisions. They may devote his or her, you know, energies more trying to justify a past or a failed decision. In this process, we have a very important concept: the sunk cost. I think accounting students are more familiar with this one, right? The sunk costs are permanent losses. That something happened in the past already. You know, it becomes a permanent loss over here, but it will still affect your decision so much. Do you have that experience? Think about that. Because you invest so much, so you cannot just get out it anymore. You keep investing good money after bad. Think about it in the stock market. I'm not quite sure whether you have experience. If you buy a stock, you know, then suddenly the stock price goes down. What would you do? You bought some stocks right now. Pfizer, I believe, that the vaccine makers. Lord, you keep buying, right? So you find that, you know, stock price of Pfizer goes up so much, and then you bought a lot. Suddenly, you know that their CEO was selling, and price goes down. So keep buying. That's normal. Keep buying so that you become the owner of the company, and then company goes bankrupt, right? Lord, so you can see that the sunk cost happened in the past should not be the factor when you try to decide what would I do in future, because you lost anyway. But human nature is so hard to overcome. We still consider the previous investment. Previous investment, particularly the sunk costs, give us trouble saying that we threw good money after bad. We keep investing, try to justify that what we previously done was right. Unfortunately, many times, you know, we just keep losing. We keep losing more money to that the failed course of action. This process is called escalation commitment. So escalation commitment is a huge, you know, phenomenon almost everywhere. That's why you have to be very careful, not for the exam, just for yourself. Think about your own decision-making process. When you have invested in something and it turned out to be a faulty, what would you do? Try to invest more to recover this cost? Or to think about your current situation. The new decision should be free, should be independent from previous laws or anything, then to see the counter decision, whether it has a chance to succeed or it's going to be just another 41. So that's the key for escalation commitment. Even think about yourself. When you not quite sure, yeah, when you have the boyfriend and girlfriend, you didn't get along well, so you decide to break up. What is often the barrier for you to say, I'm going to say bye-bye, that kind of things? What is the barrier for you to break up with your friend, boyfriend or girlfriend? Escalation commitment. All the things, all the resources, all the monetary and the emotion, all these differences you invest in this relationship. The one that you invest in this relationship, monetary investment, financial investment, and emotional investment. Now it's time to break up. You keep thinking the past. You keep thinking the past, the sunk costs, which is wrong. You're supposed to think about from now, this moment on, should I break up or not? It really depends on, do I have a bright future? Would we be able to get married? If not, there is no future. Stop it. Don't think about whatever you have invest like a sunk cost, not supposed to be your future decision. But too many times, human beings often consider that. That's why when you keep buying the stocks, Roger, the stock the price may keep going down. And then you buy more, right? And they go more. So in the end, you become the owner with that. When you try to invest in stocks, you become the owner. When you try to buy the houses as investment, you become also the landlord. You cannot sell anymore. So that would be the trouble for escalation commitment. This is a huge issue that we have to face with. And even in the social projects, many times for the larger projects, it costs millions of dollars or hundreds of millions of dollars, and then people cannot stop it anymore. That's why many big projects, large projects often exceed their deadline. We say we finish by the end of the year. No, by the end of 2 years later. Why? They have a sunk cost, so they cannot stop. Therefore, they keep investing. So the budget way over the limit. Deadline passed many years already, but they're still doing the same project. Why? Sunk cost. That's why it's a big issue. You have to be careful as the decision makers. You can see that in this process, the distance is one reason why they commit to this one, and consistent behavior is another one. Let's see in the short way, it will be like this. Why we have this trouble? Distance reduction. So if I decide to do it, and now I have to say no to it, it's so hard. It's a dissonance, right? I don't want to have this kind of conflicting dissonance in my own feeling. So that's why I keep investing. I think it's right. Try to justify, yeah, maybe because this condition, because that condition, actually it could be right. Well, in the end, you lose all the money. And also social norm for consistent behavior, even to others. You want to be consistent. Your followers, right? As a leader, you make decisions, say today, yes, we do it. And tomorrow, because it failed, no, we don't do it. But your behavior is inconsistent. So you say, let's do it again. We put more money. That's escalation commitment. And the motivation to not appear wasteful, because you already invested so much in the previous steps. If you stop it, people may call you that, oh, you're wasting money, or you're so wasteful. That may not be good. So you have the motivation to not appear wasteful, then you continue through good money after bad. And also the problem is framed. If you frame the problem as a loss, right? You think of the past, yeah, the sunk costs are lost. Well, now you want to take more risk, right? We already said it's a loss, we don't take more risk. Maybe we can recover all the costs. May not be. So that be careful when you try to frame the different issues. And also your personality, your mood and emotion affect how you do it. You're very positive, overly optimistic, you do it again. Your personality, all these things change how we decide to pursue a new course of action after we have a failed one. That is escalation commitment. It's a well-researched phenomenon. You got to be careful, and we have to think about some way to overcome it because it's so powerful in our brain. We don't, not easily to get rid of it. Some of the suggestions say we have to be alert for excessive optimistic. You are not so confident that you will get to the desirable result. No. Be alert, be aware. And also encourage continuous experimentation, saying that let's try different reframing. Maybe this one could be a gain, or this one could be a loss. Try different framing can change your attitude. Shift the frame to saving rather than spending can change your course of action in this acceleration commitment. Also set specific goals. Sometimes the goals are too ambiguous, or sometimes overly too broad. You don't know whether you achieved or not. Set specific. Say, if we invest $10 million, you finish it, that's it. Then you are less likely to commit to this escalation commitment. So set these goals in advance so that you must meet or you stop it. That is easy to stop it. And also you talk about evaluate people on the process, not on the results. If you evaluate how they have been doing, they put lots of efforts to do that, even though the project itself is a failure. If you keep focused on the failure of the project, the results, and you're going to have more escalation commitment. And in the end, talk about separate initial and subsequent decision making. So the one who made the initial decision is not here anymore. You make a decision, you close it. You don't feel like consistent or inconsistent. You don't feel like the wasteful. Now you're more likely to stop this escalation commitment. So these are the different ways to avoid escalation commitment. And for yourself, think about whether you should stop something. No, you don't want to keep investing in a failing course of action. What should I do? Separate sunk costs from new investment. My new investment, would it lead to the desirable outcome? If not, I'll stop it. If yes, I'll do it. Not to consider whether this new investment would be able to recover the loss you did in the previous ones. That's a different one. That's a different decision. So separate this, then can help you to prevent this kind of escalation of commitment. The second issue in implementation would be hindsight. Hindsight is less, detrimental, let's say this way, but it stops you from learning new things. So this careful evaluation of decision is also inhibited by faulty hindsight, meaning that you have a failed decision. And lots of people say, I knew it. Think about your project. If you haven't done anything yet, I knew it. I knew it would happen. Well, if you knew it, you would not learn anything new. If you knew it would happen this way, why not stop it? No, you didn't. But people often say that I knew it, therefore nothing surprise. Well, nothing surprise, you don't learn new knowledge, how to prevent another decision like this from happening. That's hindsight. Hindsight also takes the form that you take credit for success and avoid responsibility for failures. Because you knew it, you didn't learn anything new. You didn't learn anything for next successful decision. So that's hindsight. We also need to get rid of this one. I'll try to avoid this kind of a justification kind of a conclusion. Well, I knew it. You did not know. Otherwise, you would stop it, right? That's a hindsight for decision making. And in the end, we also know that emotion and mood affect our decision making. Basically, if you are positive, you are more likely to see positive things. You are negative, you're more likely to see negative things. So I'm not happy, I only see the sad things. If you are happy, you'll see all the smiley faces. And the results, of course, for positive mood, you are more like a creative, innovative. While for negative mood, you're more deliberated, you're more thorough. So both have the pros and cons. So you can use both. See, people in a negative mood are more prone to approach decision more deliberate, systematic, detailed way. So that's often required for complicated, decision. While positive mood promotes more creative, intuitive decision making. More innovative to get some new ideas. So that's also a good one for mood and decision making. So in the end, we have to put everything together to think about all the different steps and the relevant cognitive biases. What we should do to avoid that, to make sure that we know we are only rationally in certain way, or we are bounded rational, not perfect rational. So we know all kinds of biases we have to avoid. So in the end, you can see that the bounded rationality have all these different way that not as predicted as perfect rationality. Second, we also have this cognitive biases, all kinds of things. These cognitive biases all come from the perceptual errors, but manifested in different ways in the decision-making process. How we see, how to interpret information, how we justify, how we use the hindsight to feel better, etc. So this will be the cognitive biases in decision-making process. You do need to pay attention, not for the exam, but for yourself. When you make decisions, please think about, am I falling the trap of escalation of commitment? Why do I work so hard to do that? Because I lost something? This kind of things you have to consider. After that, we go to the group one. So the second half of this chapter is really about the group decision making. Not much differences, except that we have to be careful when people are together. They are not so rational. They could be crazy. We can use the example in the States. Now you can see that they have a huge fight between Donald Trump's group and Joe Biden's group. Now they demonstrate, I think, this weekend in Washington. Let's say millions of people went there, say Donald Trump win, right? And then they also have some kind of protest in Michigan, say they should fight against the lockdown order. They don't want to cover the face with the masks. People so rational, but how could they be so crazy or so stupid when they are in the group? So why we have to discuss group decision making, the process. First one, the basic one, we understand the benefits. Why do we use group to make decision? Decision quality could be better, acceptance or commitment will be higher, and responsibility, it could be good or could be bad, depends on how you perceive it, because our responsibility will be diffused. Sometimes we say everybody is responsible for your project, for example, then nobody is responsible. You get to get somebody to be responsible for your project. If you see the good side would be no one person will be singled out for punishment if you make mistake. But on the other hand, that'd be good, right? Otherwise, you'll be afraid of that. Should I make a decision? Should I say anything in the group or not? You should say it, because the diffusion responsibility, you will not be punished alone. If you punish the whole group, but on the other hand, if nobody is responsible, nobody want to put more efforts, that's also a big trouble. That's why diffusion responsibility could be good, could be bad. Depends on how you perceive it. And do we need to use group-based decision making? That's the one that we have to consider. Sometimes, if we have this condition meet, like say we meet this condition, say group members differ in terms of skills, in terms of abilities, then could be better. If division labor can occur, it's also better. Memory of facts is an important issue, and more people would be better. And individual judgment can be combined by weighting different things. It can also be better. In other words, if this task is additive, you can add them together to get the sum, then group will be better. Higher the better, right? That's one. And they have relevant skills, relevant ability to do it. But if the other way around, say they don't have this kind of complementary skills or abilities, you may get trouble if you work together as a group. So in this process, you have to be careful about some of this potential disadvantage, like the time always takes longer. Conflict, you may have trouble, particularly if we have a task conflict. We also have interpersonal conflict. In the group discussion, if the task conflict developed into interpersonal conflict, that will be detrimental to the task. To make sure about that. And domination, if in the process of discussion, some members try to implement or promote one ideas or dominate the whole process, the group decision making is also worse. But the more important will be the group think. Let's get to this groupthink. Groupthink for the group pressure. The group pressure influence you. You have to accept something you may not agree. So that will damage the mental efficiency. Reality check. We have so much about the fact checks right now. You said so. Reality testing and the moral judgment decision-making program. So this groupthink come from group pressure is really bad. So this unanimous acceptance decision is a straight over quality of decision. Now you overemphasize conformity versus decision quality. Then you get into trouble for the groupthink. Let's go to all the phenomena. This symptom. Some of these reasons, factors that cause groupthink include high group cohesiveness. You want to be together, you are more afraid to say anything different. Strong identification with the group, you are part of the group, the proud boy, right? You don't want to say anything different. You're concerned about approval from the group. If all other people are saying the same thing, you want to say different, how could you get approved, right? So you get a concern. And isolation the group from other sources of information. Your group is isolated from all others, independent information. Now you don't get anything meaningful. Or if you have a particularly, some kind of decision promoted by a group leader, you also get in trouble. Like Donald Trump said that, yes, I won. So these ideas have been spread around across countries. So this will be the groupthink. Some of the phenomena or symptom, including, maybe you should have read the book, A Crowd, right? A few 300, 400 years ago, 300 years ago, a book was written about how the crowd could be so crazy when they are together, even though individuals are so rational. We're so rational, but we are together, we could be very crazy. We can be insane. You see all these different demonstration or where protest in the United States. A simple health suggestion: wear the mask. It's so simple. No, half the people they don't think is right, or they want to get approval by the group, so they don't think is right. Some of these symptoms including illusion of the invulnerability. Our group is the best. Nobody can defeat us. That's illusion. We get crazy, right? Rationalization. Other groups do not agree with us because they are wrong. They don't know how to do it. This is rationalization. Illusion morality. Our groups is on hold, very high moral standards. We are the best. We have the right side. Well, when they claim the vote fraud, they think they are doing the right things. But provide some evidence, please. Not just a claim to be that way. We are waiting for the evidence so that you can show you are morally holding up rather than just an illusion. So groupthink. Stereotypes outsiders, those people who are against us, they don't know anything. They are relatively uneducated. This kind of a stereotype about outsiders. Actually, if you see the profile of all the supporters for Donald Trump, there will be relatively actually low education. That's a reality. It's a fact. And then we have the pressure for conformity. The whole group will get the pressure to agree with that you have to comply with the standards, with our whole group ideas. So the pressure makes you think like a group. Self-censorship, because everybody else thinks the same way, even though I have different ideas. I cannot say I censored myself to fit in the group. And illusion of unanimity. Well, everybody agrees, even though some people they are afraid to say anything different. It's not agree, but they have an illusion. Yeah, everybody, particularly if you think about in the project, for the leader say, any different opinions? Nobody wants to say anything, even though the majority may say differently. Well, that's the illusion. And in the end, they have a mind guard. Some people just volunteer to be the person to protect the whole group. That anybody who has different opinion, you digest yourself. No, it's not. Don't say it. So that's kind of mind guard phenomenon. You see, we have 8 different symptoms for groupthink. What is groupthink? The whole group thinks the same way. It's very scary, right? The whole group thinks the same way. When you have so many people think the same way, it's really scary. Must be something wrong. So the group think got to be careful, and use these symptoms to check whether you fall in this trap already for your project team. So there's a different sense. Mind guard, you can see that some group members adopt the rule protecting the group from information that goes against the decision. Don't say anything. So all these mainstream medias, don't read them. ABC, CBC, CNN, Fox News, don't read them. They're all wrong. We are right. Well, what can we say about this? This is a perfect example of the crowd. Let me put this one more time. If you get a chance, it's a very small book, about 300 pages. If you get a chance, read this one. It's a French translated to English, so you can see how crazy when rational individuals are combined into a not so rational group. That's how the Hitler, right? Adolf Hitler mobilized all these individual German to fight, to kill all other people. It's the crowd. The crowd is so irrational. They don't believe in anything except themselves. I hope Donald Trump is not another one, right? So, but they are developing that direction. So make sure you understand that the groupthink can make people, perfect, good people into the crazy crowd. So groupthink, that's the one that we try to, stop. Some of the strategies try to prevent groupthink. Talk about we should be careful as leaders, do not exert undue pressure for people to agree. And the leader should establish norms and encourage, reward different opinions. Dissent, responsible dissent. Care about the company, you do express different opinions. And the one thing that the devil's advocate, make sure you have somebody in the group to say no, no, no all the time, to force you to evaluate your solution. You need to have a catfish. You need to have a catfish in the fish tank. Make sure everybody is so active. Somebody is there to say no, to cause conflict, to cause trouble. Then the whole group will be more dynamic rather than just like a group think going to die. It's the trouble we try to avoid. Another phenomenon is about group shift. So this one is group think. And we have another one, group shift. Group shift also talk about risk shift. So, different way to saying the same thing. Means when the whole groups are together, how do they treat the risk? You can see that the group decision can invoke risky and conservative shifts, and they occur in a wide variety of settings, almost everywhere. Let's go to the pictures directly, like this. The risky and conservative shift, we talk about a group shift, meaning that in any group, the normal situation, that one, you can see that some people are more conservative, some people are risky. That's normal, arranged by the medium risk level. But when you have a group member discussed, after discussion, our risk attitude tend to be polarized to both ends. The risky, members tend to be riskier, and conservative tend to be more conservative. So we have a polarized positions because after discussion, first one, we get to know the knowledge we don't even know before. That's one. Second, we try to be better than the others. We try to be different, but better. After discussion, we tend to go to more extreme position. So polarized, that's the key. You can see that. Group members try to present themselves as basically similar but be better than others. So the result of this one-upmanship, if you remember the communication, people, some particular males, one up, one down position. when you communicate, when you discuss, well, majority members will be maybe males, you try to be up than others. That leads to very low quality decision. And that is also very risky situation. So that's group shift. Group shift talk about the risk attitudes, polarized when we discuss in a group context. So the risky one become riskier, and the conservative one becomes more conservative. So this risk goes to two extreme ends, more polarized. And today we have a few more methods for you to consider. We call that a contemporary approach to improve this decision making. Of course, it's with the development of IT technology. The first one is evidence-based management. We talked about it already, even at the beginning, saying that we need evidence before we make any decision. What are the good evidence? This will be peer-reviewed research. The journal article for your project report. If you refer anything, think about the journal article. That's the best one. Peer-reviewed research, because it often goes through this peer review process, and the bad ones already screaming. For the good journal, top journals, every year they only accept 5% of these submissions. Only accept 5% of all the submissions, which means they pass the test of a peer reviewed or the old kind of screening process. And of course, data generated for a specific organization will be more relevant when we make a decision, and the traditional customer and employee service will help you to get evidence. Crowdsourcing is another one to help you to do, but let's see the crowdsourcing in particular. Crowdsourcing saying that if the company doesn't know a solution, a clear problem, so I can post online. You probably have the experience about Wikipedia. Mozilla, you have the experience. Wikipedia, right? You check the information, or sometimes you get the answers over there. Yeah. So that's crowdsourcing. We post the problem online, everybody can contribute to the solutions. That's when you, as the organization, say we don't have some in-house solution. Second one, the nature of the problem can be clear stated. So what is crowdsourcing? For example, there's a definition. You put online, people will contribute the solution. So the problem is clear, and then expertise from inside is lacking, and we have a larger, diverse crowd, both knowledgeable and willing to participate, to contribute. Then this is crowdsourcing. You can use this way to come up with a very genius solution for the problem. It comes from anywhere, everywhere, everybody. Then you got it. So that's the second one. Third one is about analytics and big data. We say that we already implemented this business data analytics stream in our M1 program. Will be first intake next fall. So this is the one that we try to find meaningfulness from unmeaningfulness, right? We try to find meaningfulness from the chaos. I hope you know this chaos. Nothing, uncertainty, unknowing. We're trying to find some meaningful patterns from chaos. That's required a lot of technique for you to do. The big data is one that you can do that. All this large amount of information often collected in real time, like what is happening right now. And then we try to come up with a wide range, different things, use business data analytic, the software, to get the pattern from instant information, the big data. We know very famous one would be Google and Facebook. Whenever you Google something online, they will send you a very, narrowly defined advertisement. They send one to you. If I try to check, say Bangladesh, the next moment they will recommend all the good hotels in Bangladesh, right? And then talk about all the tourist destination. I have to go somewhere. They are watching you. I say this way. So your privacy is, I don't know whether you have any privacy at all. In internet, there are nothing private, because you post anywhere, they will find you. That's why I think Google is facing a lawsuit about monopoly. They try to break this into a smaller company, just like what happened to the Microsoft, to the Bell in the past. They have to, separate to in smaller companies rather than so powerful, so invasive. Similar for the Facebook. That's why I don't use Facebook. The first thing when I try to install that WhatsApp software, they keep asking me my cell phone number. I say no, I cannot use it. Okay, I will not use it. So it's so easy. The Facebook tried to invade your privacy, and I denied it. But at this moment, I cannot deny about Google search. So because lots of research I have to get from internet, but you can see all this targeted advertisement that really based on your habits, your behaviors online, which is threatening. Yeah. Yes, you're right. They use a search engine that is supposed to be now the main revenue come from advertising. You search so that they know who you are, or at least what you do. Then they have this target advertising to make money. So their business model is to provide free search engine so they get information about you to sell the ads. Nothing is free. If it's free, then you are the product. Remember that? If it's free, yourself is the product. So they buy you, sell you to make money. Well, what can we do? That's a dilemma, right? You sacrifice a certain, something, you gain a certain convenience. And these days, when you install all these apps in your computer, in your smartphone, you sacrifice so much about everything. They keep asking, I should have access to your contact information. I should access to your photo information, album, all these references from your smartphone. I often say no. That's why I get a clean smartphone. I don't have that many garbage software in my computer. So you don't need to worry about those who send your personal information to anywhere you don't even know. They could send your information, let's use the word, to the National Security Agent in the United States of America. Well, NSA, they send it just there, you don't even know. Of course. They know. Do you remember that when last month, right before the election, I believe, how the FBI caught a group of people who were planning to kidnap the governor of Michigan state? So you think you can turn off your phone? You cannot take off your battery now. You turn off your phone. You talk about the message or anything, FBI can figure out. That's how they caught the group of people who were planning to kidnap the governor of the Michigan state. Over here, no, you are in big trouble as long as you use this for convenience. So your decision making, think about all different things. All right, that's the end for this class. Any questions, comments? I hope you enjoy your project, right? It's a little bit busy. I know some students say it's super busy, right? I say use the wording, but you do have to work hard on that one since we only have 7 days for your project presentation. And the next class, I will provide you the guideline regarding how we evaluate your presentation. So that's the one that we have to consider. Any questions? If you don't, I'll let you go. So we're gonna see you next class. All right, we stop this recording.